Welcome to Fed Trends. This week we're talking about unlocking aggressive growth. So I'm going to do a series here. There's going to be several episodes that are related to a metric that you can use to track some important characteristic of either your portfolio or your business or an organization that you're trying to support as a consultant that I think a lot of people don't necessarily always track. They're not some of the most common ways that I've seen of tracking metrics in organizations. Now, the one tied specifically to growth, and I would say aggressive growth, has to do with the intersection of existing program size, the size of the contracts that the organization is performing on, and the average deal size, so the opportunity sizes in the pipeline. Now, what I've seen, and I've been at organizations that were 50 people that went to 100. I've been at 20 million that went to 250 million. Here's why I've started to use these metrics. Now, if you look at average program size, the smaller the contract, the less revenue, but not necessarily the less work. I've spent an inordinate amount of time on one-person, two-person contracts. I think if you're in operations, if you're in delivery, you probably have had some experience with a 2 or 3-person contract that you find yourself spending half of your day trying to support. Because there's not as much of a support structure over top of that contract, but it still has all of the requirements of customer care and engagement and employee care without as much program management oversight available there to handle them. And also from an overhead perspective, there's the same invoicing, the same funding tracking, all of those same things that have to happen on a larger program still have to happen from a back office or support organization perspective. So the first metric that I like to implement when I'm trying to drive growth for an organization is watch the average program size. Now, there's going to be times where it's not quite $1 million a year yet. That's fine. We have to start somewhere, but aim for $1 million. Then once you reach that, double it, go to $2 million. Then you want to approximately double it, maybe a little bit more, somewhere between $4 to $5 million, and then you want to look at $10 million. That also syncs up with the average sizes of government programs. It's pretty frequent that you're going to find $1 million a year, $2 million a year, $5 and $10 million a year programs. Now, when you start to scale that up and look at and deliver on larger programs, you're going to reduce overhead size and the amount of time that your ops folks are spending on those programs, which means they free up to look at growth and opportunities. So it both makes it more efficient for the organization and it gives you more time to focus on growth. The next benefit is it allows and drives career growth for the PMs, because as you're talking to a program manager on one contract, the next bid that you're going to work on is probably the right size for them to take the next step in their career. Now, the next thing is those increasingly sized deals. Your $2 million contract is a pretty good past performance for a $5 million program. So you can maybe pick up a sub to add another large one, but you're credible at that range. And the other thing is you create stability in the organization. A $2 or $3 million, $5 million a year program, even if there's a little bit of a budget cut or a reduction of some kind, you've still got enough revenue stability that you can run the company and not have to be constantly paying attention to ending programs and that type of thing. Now, the next piece is on the growth side. You also want to watch your average deal size, and your average deal size should really be one step above where your average contract size is. So if your average contract size right now is $1 million a year, your average deal size should be $2 million a year. When your average contract size gets to 2, start looking at $5 million a year. So when you do that, that means that you're going to have a pipeline full of deals that when you win them, they're going to advance your company. And you should start including a couple of deals that are strategic captures that are 2 steps above where you are on your existing base of programs. Here's why. So if you're at $1 million a year and most of your deals in your pipeline are $2 million a year, if you pick something strategic that is 12, 18 months out that's at $5 million, you should be at an average of 2 million by the time you are ready to submit a bid on that larger $5 million deal. And the thinking and planning and preparing for it is going to challenge and raise the maturity level of the capture organization as they're working on it. So leaning forward is important, because if you just bid what you're comfortable with, you're always going to have 3 and 5 person projects. And this can be at the company level, or I've had organizations that I ran before where I had a whole collection. I might have had $25 million in revenue, but it was all just a couple of people on each project, and it's exhausting to manage that. Now, there's a couple of factors that are going to work against you. Number one is you get stuck in kind of silent quicksand. When you have a bunch of tiny programs, it takes a lot of time and it makes it difficult to work on growth. But it's important to pick some bigger deals and to start to feed those into the pipeline so that over time, your average program size will get larger. Also, saying no is difficult. It's very hard when you're trying to make a revenue number to have somebody call up with a $500,000 opportunity that sounds pretty easy and say no. But it's important for an organization to develop the maturity to decide that that is simply a distraction and not something that's going to help achieve your overall 5-year growth plan. And the last factor here is you'll get calls about being a subcontractor. And it's so easy to fall into the trap to say, well, this isn't going to be that hard. I'm not going to have to do that much on the proposal. I'm going to go ahead and jump in on this team for 2 or 3 positions that will be $300,000 or $400,000 a year. Now you're caught in the ops cycle where you have to support that, and it's just going to slow the organization down. So the message is, if you want to drive really aggressive growth, watch your average program size, sync it with your average deal size, and keep pushing both of them up, and you'll be able to achieve growth much more significantly than just continuing to focus on small deals. Thanks so much for watching this week. I'll have another one of these hidden metrics that's important to driving a successful government contracting company next week.